Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to this Masters in History information session. Before we start, we want to inform you that this session is being recorded and will be shared on the ICE YouTube channel, and the recording will be sent to all those who have registered for this event after the session. My name is Laura Jones and I'm the Academic Centre Coordinator at the Institute of Continuing Education at the University of Cambridge, also known as ICE. Today in the panel, you'll be hearing from our course director, Dr. Matt Neal, one of our current students, Richard Rose, and from Lucy in our enrolment team. Next slide, please. This week we'll be running a variety of online sessions to give you the opportunity to find out more about our Masters at the Institute of Continuing Education. Course information sessions like this one, covering each course in our Masters portfolio, will be taking place at 6:30 every evening. In addition to our live sessions, we have an additional video resources on our website giving you further information on funding options, the application process, college matriculation, student support, and interview preparation. If you've missed any of our sessions or can't attend, then you can watch the recordings, which will be available on our website after each event. Next slide, please. ICE was established 150 years ago in 1873, and we were the first university-led continuing education provider in the world. Today, we offer a wide range of courses to adult learners, including short online and residential weekend courses, international summer programs, and award-bearing part-time undergraduate and postgraduate qualifications, covering a number of subject areas from archaeology to genomic medicine. We also act as the admitting body for all MSt courses within the University of Cambridge, with our MSt students becoming members of a Cambridge college upon commencement of their course. Next slide. In today's session, we will take you through what you can expect from the MSt in History, including entry requirements, teaching style, module content, and assessment. You will then hear from one of our current MSt students. At the end of the presentation, our enrolment team will take you through what kind of support we can provide during your application. We have time reserved at the end of the session to answer your questions, so please send us your questions for any members of the team here via the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen during this presentation. I will now hand over to Dr. Matt Neal, one of our course directors for MSt in History. Thanks, Matt.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Laura. My name is Matt Neal, and I'm co-course director on the MSt in History. And I work very closely in this role with Professor Sam Williams, the course director. Sam unfortunately can't be with us this evening, so I'm very happy to be with you all and speaking about our fabulous course. Okay, next slide, please. So this slide just gives you a bit of an outline of the programme, the key information. This programme is designed for those who want to study at postgrad level and who are keen to develop at that level high-level skills in history, the academic study of history. The MSt is a 2-year part-time master's course running from October 2025 through to June 2027. And there are, in the first year of the 2-year course, 3 taught modules that form the taught year of the masters. And we'll say a little bit about those modules in a few minutes. The second year of the programme is the research year, the year in which you research and write up a dissertation, which showcases original archival work. In year 1, we meet 3 times as a cohort at 3 residential teaching blocks, and there's 1 teaching block each term. In year 2, we meet 3 times again, this time for 3 Friday day schools. And the day schools are an opportunity to hear about each other's work in progress. The residentials in year 1, where we hear from academics in various historical fields, and the day schools in year 2, where we hear from each other about work in progress, are all held in Cambridge at Girton College. And the outcome of the course in terms of credits is 180 credits at Masters of Studies level. Next slide, please. Okay, so a little bit more detail on the course content of the first year of this 2-year course. So this is the taught year. And you can see that we have here 3 modules, 1 per term. The first module, which we call Approaches to History, is a nice introduction to a range of different approaches that historians take to the academic study of history. And this is, again, a series of talks from leading academics in different fields, and some good classroom discussion on the back of those talks. And the teaching dates for Module 1, the residential, for Module 1, are Tuesday the 14th to Friday the 17th of October 2025. Module 2 takes as its theme sources, methods, and research skills. So this is in the second term of Year 1. This is an opportunity to develop research training in using sources, in applying methods and research skills drawn from a range of different approaches to the academic study of history. And the dates for this second residential are Wednesday the 11th to Friday the 13th of February 2026. And then theory, concepts, and historiography forms the third module. And in this module, we look at theoretical, we look at conceptual, and we look at historiographical approaches developed very much through themed topics. And by historiography, this is a term of art that it might be useful just briefly to explain. By historiography, we mean essentially existing scholarship, existing historical scholarship in these different areas. And the teaching dates for the residential in Module 3 are Wednesday the 6th through to Friday the 8th of May 2026. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. So here are some example timetables, some sample timetables for the sorts of talks that we get from leading academics in the different Year 1 residentials. You can see that there's a nice wide coverage of approaches, of themes, of topics, of research areas, and of research skills training. And in each module's residential, we make sure to set some time aside for workshopping, so that whatever stage we're at in the course, you get a workshop from Professor Williams and me that sort of really kind of practically takes you through what's likely to be on your desk at that stage in the course, and we give you some good top tips and working methods for the stage of the course that you're at. Okay, next slide, please. So moving through to looking at the course content for Year 2 of this 2-year masters. This is the research year. And as that phrasing will suggest, the focus is very much on the dissertation. And this is the part of the course in which you're working independently on your research topic under the supervision of a field expert, an expert in the chosen field that your work falls in. And there are a total of 5 supervisions with that leading expert, with that supervisor. And those 5 supervisions fall between May 2026 and May 2027. Supervision is another term of art that it might be worth explaining. A supervision in Cambridge speak is a one-to-one session with your expert supervisor. It's likely to be a session that involves submitting some written work in advance for your supervisor to read, to get a sense of where you're at in your research and how well it's turning into prose. It's also likely to be a session that involves some really good and useful feedback. That feedback might be reading advice. It might be responses to the written work submitted. It might be, in a looser sort of way, trying out some ideas, trying out some future lines of research, talking through what the next steps might be in the work you're doing. And the feedback you get from your supervisor should very much be a combination of sort of feedback on written work, practical advice for next steps, and nice big academic thinking. Okay, then in the day schools in year 2, where we meet to share with one another work in progress. You can see there that we've listed the dates for you for these day schools in year 2. They'll fall on the 23rd of October 2026, the 22nd of January 2027, and the 23rd of April 2027. And they have a little structure to them. We need to keep to time. We need you to cover a certain amount of your work to date in the slides that you present to your peers. But they're also an opportunity, these day schools, to informally discuss the work that we're all doing and to get ideas and advice from peers over coffee and over lunch, as well as in the classroom. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, teaching and assessment. As you can see from this slide, lectures and discussions in the year 1 residentials will be led by a wide range of subject experts from the University of Cambridge, Faculty of History, and also guest speakers. With your research year, your second year, you're getting those one-to-one dissertation supervisions with subject experts. And it's worth just saying a word or two, I think, about the forms of assessment that the work in the end adds up to. So in year 1, the taught year of the course, you will produce 3 essays, each of 3,000 words length, and each in response to a question set that you choose from a set of questions at the end of the residential. So topics covered in that residential will each have for them an essay question that you can choose to take and write a 3,000-word essay on. That means you have quite a good range of topics to write an essay on at the end of each residential. In year 2, of course, the research year, the form of assessment is the dissertation itself. And this is a 16 to 20,000 word piece of original research produced under the guidance of the expert supervisor that you meet one-to-one with 5 times in that second year. Next slide, please. Okay, time commitment. This is a course that is designed for people who may have other things also going on in their lives, whether that's work or other commitments. It is a part-time master's. It is a full master's, but we study part-time. So that means about 6 to 8 hours need setting aside for the course per week. And then an intensive period for each residential, this is year 1, of 20 to 30 hours attendance at the residentials. Now, as for reading, it is a really good idea to prepare some read material in advance of each class that is offered at each residential. So that means probably 1 or 2 items per class. And the leaders of the classes, in presenting their reading lists to you in advance of the residential, make sure to signal which are the items that you might want to start with. That means that you're reading a total of 11 to 16 items before you come to the residential. So what's an item? Well, it's not too heavy going. It's an article, or it's a chapter in a collection, an edited collection of academic work, or maybe it's a chapter or a part of a monograph looking at a particular theme or a particular topic. In writing up your essay, once you've picked your question at the end of the residential, you're advised to read about 20 items. And that essay, informed by 20 items worth of reading at least, is due 3 weeks after the module, and that can include the 20 items. They can include items that you've read in advance of the module in preparation for the residential. Okay, next slide, please. And at this point, I'll hand back to Laura.
Thank you very much. So in regards to the colleges, so once you've applied and you've been accepted your offer, you will become a member of the University of Cambridge College, which will grant you the same level of support as full-time university students. As well as having access to the standard college resources, you'll be allocated a college tutor who is responsible for your welfare and pastoral support, and your college will confirm arrangements such as your university card, your matriculation, and the graduation events at the end of your course. You will also become a member of your college for life. We work with a number of different colleges across our MSt courses, and for the MSt in History specifically, we work closely with the colleges you can see on the screen now: Selwyn, Wolfson, and Lucy Cavendish. You can state a preference for one of these colleges when you apply, but please note that it isn't normally possible to become a member of another college unless you have a pre-existing affiliation with that college. We will be running a session with the colleges tomorrow, and if you do wish to attend and ask any questions, there should be a link in the chat. Okay, now we've invited Richard, one of our current Year 2 students. He's currently in Year 2, and it's very kind of him to come and talk to us today about his experience, and he will answer some questions in the Q&A session in a bit. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Laura. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this discussion. I think I'd start off by saying that I did my bachelor's many years ago at Birkbeck, which is part of the University of London, and I did that part-time 2 nights a week for a number of years, and I did that in history. And it was about, I think I finished that in 2012. I applied about 18 months ago now to the MSt course, and I submitted a research proposal which focused very heavily on the thinking of civil servants towards the rise of the Nazi Party in the mid-30s. And I mention that deliberately because I saw one of the questions that came up in the chat about that period. So as what I would say about Cambridge and the MSt course in particular is that it's a wonderful opportunity. I was absolutely delighted to be offered a place on the course. It has given me a chance to really, I think, to really allow myself, I think, to think around subjects, to be academically challenged, to think much deeper, to think more broadly about the issues, historiography, history theory, questions that we're facing in modern day and how that reflects on our studies. It's been a really wonderful opportunity. And I would say that the other thing I would say about studying at Cambridge is that you have the most incredible resources available to you. if you go onto the libraries, if you go onto the library system, so for example, when you start, the resources available are phenomenal. I'm a regular user of the library. I'm a very regular user of the iDiscovery pages at the university. There's no shortage there at all of resources. I would say that doing a master's part-time is challenging, and I think that you do need to think very carefully about your kind of like your work-life balance, and how you're going to fit in your studies to your work or your family commitments. But I have found that I really did set myself up with a system of doing some time in the evenings and some time at the weekends, and that really paid off. The first year you do 3 essays, and I think the mistake I probably made when I joined was I thought 3 essays, yeah, that'll be all right. I can do 3 essays. That's no trouble at all. Actually, it is tough, and especially I think if you've not written an essay for a very long time, and so you really need to be in the classes, talking to your classmates, listening to your tutors, working with them, gradually building your confidence up to the point where you can write an essay at the standard required. And it is really important. I think that first year for me was incredibly important to prepare me for the second year. I don't think really, looking back on it now, I could have gone in and just written a dissertation to the standard required at Cambridge had I not done that first year and learned so much. I think, is there anything else you would think, Dr. Neil, is there anything else you would think that would be useful for me to add?
I think that sounds excellent, Richard, and maybe other things will come up in due course in the Q&A.
Thank you.
That sound all right? Great, super. Well, thanks again, Richard. That was fantastic to get
Thank
some
you.
first-hand reflections. Okay, I'm going to just finish up by saying a word or two about applications, and then a word or two about fees and funding. So to put in an application, which should go in via our application portal, which you can find on the MSt in History course webpage, you're going to need the following items for an application. First and foremost, you are going to need a research proposal. And we ask that as you prepare this proposal, you give it the heading Statement of Intended Research. And it should be between 600 and 1,000 words in length. And it's going to want to cover a few key points within those words. You are going to want to indicate what area you want to study. You may want to indicate to what place, what part of the world you want to study, and in which period. So area, place, and chronological period, these are key details to make sure that you get across in your research proposal. You're also going to want to use the research proposal to talk a little bit about how the research that you intend to carry out will contribute to the existing historiography. That word again just means scholarship. You're also going to want to indicate in your research proposal what primary sources you intend to consult. So those are sources from the period. And you're going to want to probably provide as well a bibliography of secondary works as well as primary works that you intend to consult. So that's the research proposal. You're also going to need to submit with your application a sample of written work. Now, in the case of standard applicants, this will be a complete final year undergraduate paper or a number of shorter papers in a history or history-related field. If you're a non-standard applicant, you might want to choose to submit a piece of writing from among the essay questions, the essay prompts that we provide on our course information page, our web page. And again, if you're writing an essay in response to one of those essay prompts, then you need to submit a piece that is roughly 10 to 20 pages in length. Thirdly, an application is going to need to contain references, and it's your responsibility to ensure that your referees are ready to submit references. By preference, we like to receive 2 academic references, but if need be, one of your 2 references can be a professional reference. It's just really vital with a professional reference that it's clear from the reference what position the referee holds. And the deadline to apply is 28th of February 2025. Next slide, please. So, on to fees and funding. The fees for the 2025 to 2027 course, including college membership, are for home students £7,755 per annum, which comes to a total of £15,510 over the course. And for overseas students, £15,510 per annum, which comes to a total of £31,020 over the 2 years of the course. A formal offer, when made, will confirm home or overseas funding status. And if you have any queries about home or overseas funding status, please do feel free to direct your queries to the MSt admissions email inbox. And we've put the address for that on this slide for you to make a note of. An instalment plan for payment of fees typically involves 4 equal payments per year. Around that, there is some flexibility, but it's absolutely vital that you communicate with us if any flexibility is required. And it's worth flagging up that the first payment occurs before the course starts. It's also worth flagging up that it is a requirement of progression from 1 to 2, from year 1 to year 2, that fees for year 1 are fully paid. There are at current no bursaries or scholarships available via ICE, via the Institute for Continuing Education, but a small amount of funding is available in year 2 for research for students holding a UK graduate loan. Okay, thanks very much. And I think at this point I hand over to Lucy. Lucy.
Hi, my name's Lucy and I'm part of the enrolment team at the Institute of Continuing Education. So I've actually been in the chat just answering any questions that you have and that have come through. But we understand that, you know, you might have further questions later on. So if you'd like to pop us a message through either our QR code that you can see on the screen now, or if you'd rather use our email, so that's questions@ice.cam.ac.uk. But I understand this is a lot of information, so if you forget any of this, don't worry at all, and you can just go onto the website, and then on the right hand side of the website you'll see a ask us a question button. If you'd like to press that, that will take you directly to our inquiry form, so you can ask any further questions you have. Thanks.
Okay, so we'll now open the session to questions. We've got a few questions already, but if you have any more, keep putting in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. Firstly, so this one will be for Matt. So somebody has asked if there is a specific focus on this course with regards to a place and period in history. For example, modern Britain or the Second World War. Now, I'm not sure if they're talking about in year 1 or in terms of their topic for the when applying, but I think you can answer for both.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, and it's a really good question. On the dissertation, on the research in year 2, no, there are no restrictions on what part of the world and what time period you might want to research, except that we do need to be able to find you an expert supervisor in that field. An expert supervisor doesn't have to be absolutely bang in the middle of that research field. They may be in a field a little adjacent to what you want to work on, but that's fine because, of course, you become the expert pretty quickly through the process of research. So that's the only really limiting factor in year 2. Can we find you an appropriate expert supervisor in that area or an adjacent area? In year 1, the talks you get from experts in their field at the residentials will obviously reflect to some degree their research interests and their areas of study. In writing your essay in response to a question at the end of the residential, you may, of course, range into any area or time of history that you think will throw interesting light on the question you've been asked. And in fact, it's kind of considered bad form just to replicate the lecture and replicate the lecturer's areas of interest in the essay. That is not terribly intellectually creative. So we encourage you to pursue your own interests in those essays.
Okay, thank you. Next one, I'm going to switch across to a question for Richard. Do students feel a real sense of being part of Cambridge, or does the part-time status make you feel different or slightly more isolating?
Great question. A brilliant question. 2 things I would say. A lot of it really does depend on the individual. It really does depend on how much you want to take part in life at the university. So for me, the first year, because of work commitments and family commitments, it was a bit difficult. I did the residentials, I was at all of them. I didn't spend much time up in Cambridge though in my first year. The second year though, I'm going to be spending a lot more time there. I'm doing my dissertation. I'm seeing my supervisor. I'm at the library at Cambridge this weekend. I would also say that there is in the last 8 to 10 weeks, there's been a mature student society that has been set up at Cambridge, and that now has over 550 members. I'm a part of that. There are events going on almost every week now, and that mature student society is growing. And I think that increasingly for people on their MSt, people that pass through the MSt course, and then the alumni from this course, I think will increasingly graduate towards a mature student society, because it's a real outlet for people right across the University of Cambridge and across all of the colleges and across all of the courses to get together and experience Cambridge. The other thing I would also add is that you will get invitations to formals or formal dinners at your college, and you can attend or not attend. Again, it really does depend on the amount of time you've got. You might find in the second year, because you are more free to set your own pace with your research, you might find it's easy to start to attend those formals. Plus, as it really is up to you. But I do think increasingly the mature student society is going to be a real cornerstone for older students to get together right across the university. So I hope that answers the question.
Great, thank you, Richard. I'm just combining a couple of questions here as on a similar topic. So can a student with no formal background in history still take the course? And some specific questions about if they've got undergraduate degrees in different subjects, will that affect their application?
Thanks very much. Shall I take that one? We are happy to receive applications from people, whatever their background. We would normally look for a 2-1 degree from a UK university, 2-1 level, in usually history adjacent or history topics, but we're not restricted. and we're very happy to receive and consider all applications entirely on their own merits.
Great, thank you very much. So another one is people have been asking if it's possible to pause the program in the middle if they have need to unexpectedly take time off. What would they have to do?
Should I take that one as well, Laura?
Yeah.
So we do have options if that becomes necessary. The university's official terminology here is intermission. And this is just a pause in studies. There might be medical reasons for intermission. There might be non-medical reasons for intermission. It allows you to pause your studies, get on top of whatever you need to get on top of that might be going on elsewhere in your life, and then return to study when you're ready to do so.
Great, thank you very much. This one I don't know the answer to, so I don't know if it would be for Matt or Richard. What's the typical age range for the cohort or for part-time students? Or what can we say? I don't know.
Shall I go first, Matt? Yeah, I would say I saw a bulletin go out on the. So I don't think Matt sees the Mature Student Society correspondence. You see, so and they said that I think they said their oldest person there was about 82, and it goes up from 21 up to about 82. I'm in my early 50s. I think probably on the MST course, the average age is probably around 45, 47, something like that, I would say. But I think increasingly, certainly from what I've seen from the messages going back and forth in the Mature Student Society, people returning to education partway through their career or older in life is becoming more and more common. Also, you've got a little bit more money, perhaps a little bit more time, or I should say, as in my case, maybe just it wasn't right when I was younger, but it was right when I was older. And I think that's fair to say for probably quite a few people on the MST course that I'm currently on. Matt, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just maybe one or two things. Actually, I want to add something to an earlier answer I gave as well, just to clarify about previous degrees. Your degree doesn't have to be from a UK university, but what we would be looking for is a UK 2-1 equivalent grade in whatever degree and from wherever your degree has come from. So that's just to clarify there. Richard, I wonder whether it might be worth just saying a word or two about how the University of Cambridge actually defines mature student. Do you want to maybe clarify?
There. 21, as far as I recall, Matt, 21 years and over. And certainly, I think when I look at the MSS, I would say I've seen the people there. I'd say the average age actually there is probably 40s and 50s and upwards.
Yeah,
but yeah, 21 and above.
21 and above is the official university definition of mature student. But all are welcome on the MST. So whatever your background, whatever your story and your history, and whatever your age.
Great, thank you. And again, combining a couple of questions. Somebody specifically said, with the proposal, does that mean in a way you're stuck with that field of research? And linking to that, if in advance of doing the application, can they get in touch with course directors about their proposal in advance of submitting their application to check if it's suitable and what they need to do?
Yes, we welcome inquiries. So do feel free to be in touch. As for whether you're committed no flexibility to the project you propose. I don't think we're that rigid. We recognise that projects, as they're being undertaken, evolve. I think that's the more usual way in which for a project to change. It evolves as it's being researched. I think if there were to be a whole new proposal submitted on a topic that you hadn't been admitted for, that hadn't been discussed at interview, that would be a rather bigger conversation. But as for a project evolving as you go, that's normal. I mean, actually, that's what happens in research. Things do evolve, the shape does change. So I think that's more usually what tends to happen.
That's what's happened with me. Yeah, that's exactly. So my supervisor has come back, and we've done a little bit of work on the title, Matt, and narrowed it down a little bit. And then as I'm going along with the supervisions, getting being pointed in the right direction and narrowing it possibly down even more. And I think that is, yeah, I think that's spot on.
Great. And then, so somebody is asking about for international students and about attending the residential sessions and about having to attend in person versus a course that would be online.
Yeah. We do really strongly encourage attendance in person at the residentials in year one, because they are quite a big block of time taken together. A few days in a row, all of us together. With day schools in year two, we recognise that that's rather a shorter amount of time to travel a long way for a day school, a single day school. And so we're certainly happy to talk about possible remote attendance at day schools in year two. We consider all cases on a case-by-case basis, and so if that conversation needs to be had, we have that conversation, and we work out what is a good and fair and equitable and practical outcome.
Great, thank you. So again, a couple of questions about the application process, about whether we do the applications in a batch or on a rolling process, and if we run the course every year or if it's alternate years. And finally, I'm putting it all in one go because it's all the same process. How long will it take for them to receive a notification if they've been successful? So a lot there, sorry, Matt.
You might need to remind me of
sorry, that's fine, sorry.
The last bit. But to answer the question about when applications are considered, all applications are considered on a gathered field after the closing date. So I think that fairly straightforwardly answers that question. We consider applications as a gathered field after the closing date, but please feel free to submit your application as soon as you're ready. Laura, what was the second part?
Sorry, I've realised we've only got 1 minute left, so very quickly, is the applications every year? Yes, I can answer that one.
Yeah.
The course runs every year for the 2 months. And how long till they should receive a response about whether they progress to the next stage?
Yeah, I think we encourage you to submit your application as early as possible. All shortlisted applicants will be invited to interview, and I think you can expect the interview dates to be late March, early April. So I think that gives a sense of the time frame for when you might hear back from us. Laura, I don't know if you want to add anything on that.
I'm just going to, so we will update you as soon as we have the dates confirmed for the interviews, and if you've been successful, we'll select a date, but there'll be a couple of available, and then after that, or dependent on the interview, it will take a while for you to be offered a place, because we do have to find your supervisor before you can formally be offered the place, which, unlike a lot of other courses, you'd get accepted and then we find it. For us, we need to do it the other way around and have your supervisor before we can officially offer you a place in the course. Okay, we've run out of time now, I'm afraid, so we're come to the end of the session. Thank you very much for joining this evening. We hope you have found it informative, and there are links everywhere to ask more questions or attend more sessions. Thank you very much.